organisé ce panel en anglais et on va parler de Communication and Marketing Challenges in BRICS and Middle East. Alors j'appelle à nous rejoindre sur scène Veetika Deoras, elle est Head and Brand Marketing and Corporate Communication at Tata Capital Limited. Hi, nice to meet you. Please, can you sit there? Hervé Cuvillier, il est CEO chez Diwani, j'espère que je prononce bien. Merci de vous installer également ici. Et le modérateur est Christophe Ginisti, European Technology Digital Evangelist chez Edelman. Merci beaucoup d'être avec nous. Je vous en prie, installez-vous. Et on doit voir s'il y a des slides. Oui, alors si vous voulez, vous préférez être ici ?
Bonjour, merci de nous accueillir, de nous donner la parole et de nous donner encore quelques minutes avant d'aller déjeuner. Comme vient de vous le dire notre modérateur, notre animateur en chef, on va faire ce panel en anglais pour des raisons qui sont évidentes, puisque Veetika ne parle pas français et donc je vais immédiatement switcher en anglais. So thank you very much, Veetika, for being here today and for traveling to Paris for this conference. This is a very cool opportunity now because we have the opportunity to talk not about ourselves but to talk about, emerging markets and emerging countries. And India is a fantastic case. Hervé is French, but he's coming from the Middle East, and he's going to talk to us about what is going on in the Middle East regarding social media. And he's doing a lot of things, very interesting things, especially for women in the Middle East, and he will go through this point. Before inviting Veetika to speak, I would like to show some data. So first, if we can go to the next slide, or push, yes. These figures are interesting to comment. It is what people are doing on social media, and especially in different countries in the world. So this is about what people are doing in social media in most of the country. And what you see very obviously is the country in China, Russia, Brazil, and India, what we call the BRICS countries. You've got a massive adoption of social media. Oh, merci beaucoup. Thank you. You've got a massive adoption of social media, much more than in countries like France, Germany, and the UK, and so on. Because you are at a level more than 80% of internet users. So Veetika will tell us in a moment that there's not a lot of internet penetration in India, but among those who are on the internet, the social media adoption is absolutely massive. The second figures that I wanted to show you is what people are doing, the nature of what they are doing on social media. And what is interesting to discover is that in the BRICS countries, microblogging and management of social media profile are the two elements that are growing very fast. In the microblogging activity is the first bar, and the blue bar is taking care of a social media profile. And you see that it is absolutely impressive to see the growth from a year to another. What I want to point as well on this chart is you will see the green bar is writing on a blog. And what you see is that writing on a blog worldwide is an activity that is decreasing, I'm sorry. Another element that is interesting to comment is the penetration of Facebook. Most of the people are considering that social media equal Facebook. What is interesting to see is that social media in Brazil and in India are growing. Use of Facebook is growing in India and in Brazil, in big countries like this. It is decreasing in the US. if you look at those figures in the past years. And last figure that I wanted to show you, maybe it's going to be a little bit complex to see what is going on, but at the bottom you've got the social media engagement, and on the vertical you've got the e-commerce engagement. And what you see is that countries like China, have an impressive engagement both on social media and e-commerce, which is opening the doors of what we call the social commerce. And you see in that chart how important is the development of social commerce in these countries. You see India is on the green side with really a lot of social media engagement. Brazil as well. And there's more and more social media engagement that is going together with e-commerce management. So this is about the figures that I wanted to show you. And in fact, what is interesting to discover is that we are all dealing with social media. We're all talking about social media. But in fact, in those countries, in emerging countries, what we call the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, the adoption of social media is even more important than it is with us. So this is it. This is what I wanted to say. Veetika, the floor is yours. I would like you to take the microphone and please tell us more about social media in India. For those who do not know Tata, because I've talked to someone before this presentation who was totally ignorant about Tata, never heard of this name. Tata is one of the biggest company in the world, one of the biggest and largest company in India, maybe the number one conglomerate in India. And if you don't know Tata, maybe you know Jaguar, who is an Indian car, not a British car. And it's a fantastic company. And Veetika is a part of it. So Veetika, floor is yours. You can stay here if you want.
Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here, and it's even a bigger pleasure being in Paris. So yes, I did have to travel 10 hours, but I would do it again and again and again, because this is clearly one of the prettiest cities in the world. I'll need that.
Push the green button.
Okay.
The red, if you want to go backward. Yeah. Okay, and the green to go forward.
Can I just get to my first slide? Would that be possible?
Is it your first slide?
No. Okay, so while they're figuring this out, my first slide actually talks about the fact that we're on, which is broadly the theme of my presentation today. We are a nation of over 1 billion, and we are adopting, adapting, and engaging with the internet like never before. Great, thank you. So yes, that broadly summarizes the theme of my presentation today. I'll just quickly take you through some statistics as far as India and online are concerned. Currently in India, there are about 120 million internet users, which makes us the 3rd largest internet user community in the world. And what's interesting to note is that 120 million, our penetration is as low as 10.2%. The number is expected to go to 250 million by 2015. In terms of contribution of the internet economy to India's GDP, we are currently contributing, the internet is currently contributing about $30 billion US. By 2015, the number is expected to go up to 100. In terms of social media, there are 59 million users who are on social media, 15 million who are on Twitter, and about 15 million who are on LinkedIn. Just doing a little deep dive into Facebook, there are 59 million users. That makes us the number 3 global user in terms of, as far as the global statistics go. This represents a penetration of only 5.05%. 74% users are male, and there is a huge 26% female users in India. Why I count 26 as being huge is because traditionally the women audience in India have been seen to be a little more shy and reticent. The largest age group which is on Facebook from India is 18 to 24, which is about 48% of the total audience. I just try to put here the 3 top Facebook pages as per the Indian stats. The reason I did that was because the first one is actually a corporate, which is Tata Docomo. It's a mobile operator. It's a case I'll be covering subsequently as well. The second is a singer, and the third is a movie. And in terms of YouTube, it's primarily entertainment led, and therefore most of our videos are music or movies led. And yes, that figure right on top is 1 billion video views. In terms of LinkedIn, there are 15 million users, which makes us number 2 globally. Mumbai and Delhi, which is the capital of the nation and the financial capital of the nation, are together contributing more than 10% of the users. Twitter, we are again about 15 million. In the last 2 years, Twitter has seen an increase of about 191% in terms of people who are on Twitter. This, interestingly, is probably the only platform where the male-female ratio becomes even more positive in terms of female. Probably proves the fact that women like to talk and chat. It's 60% male and 40% female users. More than 20,000 users actually have more than 500 followers who read their updates daily. And what's very interesting to note is that the celebrities have caught on to the bandwagon in a large way, and we have celebrities who have followers to the tune of 1 million. Dalai Lama ji is, of course, the first, who has about 5.2 million followers. Amongst brands, it's again Tata Docomo, which has got the maximum, which is about 50,000 followers. Moving on to the mobile piece of this, we have about 850 million mobile connections. Out of which 650 million are alive. 200 are internet-enabled mobiles, out of which 100 million are active mobile internet devices, and 50 million are high-end. In terms of what the lowest price smartphone costs in India, currently it's about $65, and soon it will touch about $45. There are 450 million smartphones, they're expected to be 450 million smartphones in India by the year 2015. Just a little deeper dive in terms of smartphones in urban India. The average daily time spent on smartphones is 2.5 hours. There is a new prime time slot which has come, which is 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Geographically, 10% of the population in large metros possess a smartphone and 8% in mini metros. In terms of what are they doing, 89% are into search, 82% into social networking, and so on and so forth. These are really, so what I'm really trying to show with this slide is that A, the numbers are high, B, the engagement levels are very high. Moving on to the ecosystem, I'll just spend 4 or 5 slides in trying to explain to you what are the challenges for online in India and what are the factors that are working in its favor. Broadly, there are 4 aspects to the online ecosystem. There is access, there is capital or entrepreneurship, there are governmental initiatives, and then there are the demographics of the country. In terms of access, one thing which is really working in the populace's favor is the device costs. They have been consistently coming down. However, one thing which is improving but is still a bottleneck is the infrastructure. In terms of the costs of broadband in India, it is one of the highest in the world. Unfortunately, the cable industry is highly fragmented and unorganized. Actually, these are the reasons which probably explain the low penetration levels of 10%. The cable industry is highly fragmented and it still runs primarily on analog. However, on the other side, there is a very proactive effort by the government to try and enhance infrastructure. There is a lot of investment which is being made by the government in terms of laying down fiber optics. And yes, India has seen 3G and is soon going to see 4G in a big way. And therefore, we are expecting that mobile will be playing a big role as far as broadband access is concerned. These are just some figures wherein This is the average time spent online by an Indian. We were operating at about 0.45 of an hour, and now we are expected in 2015 to go over 60 minutes. I think there are 3 other countries which have a figure of over 60 minutes, which is probably Japan, China, and US. Moving on to the second trend, which is demographics. This is where a lot of excitement is actually happening in the country. What we have on the axis, which is towards the right, is we have the class 1 cities, then we have the other urban centers, then we have the large villages, and then at the bottom we have the medium and small villages. What you would notice that, let's just say from 1991 to 2011, there is a rapid decline in terms of the population which is staying in medium and small villages. So there is a huge urbanization which is happening in the country. These are 2 other trends which are happening as far as demographics in the country are concerned. There is an emergence of census towns. These are basically large villages which are now adopting to urbanization and are almost operating as small urban centers. There is also a huge emergence of middle India, which is, we have about 390 towns which have populations between 1 to 10 lakhs. And it is this next 100 million which we are expecting is going to get online soon. This is the demographic, the geographic distribution of internet users, and you can see that there's a huge spread which is moving away from metros. In terms of percentage, this is the percentage population of India divided as per age bands. There is a 66% which is 34 and less. So ordinarily and typically it is the young audience which takes to online in a big way, and we are sitting at about 66% sub 34 years. In terms of government initiatives, there are huge initiatives from part of the government to try and get the infrastructure in place. Last year, we actually went on to filing all our income tax returns online, which was a big thing for us. Passport is moving online. We've all been issued unique identification numbers, which is all digitalization of records of the populace. Risk capital and entrepreneurship. For any area to grow within a country, there's a lot of money that needs to come into that. And this graph here actually shows the investments which are being made by VCs and PE firms. Very clearly, there are a lot of VCs and PE firms which are entering India. Deployment in India is big. A lot of them want to enter the early stage, and therefore online is an obvious choice for a lot of them. In terms of what are the things that the Indian audience is doing in the online space, search information is the first, search is the biggest. Google has more than 90% market share. There was an Indian counterpart by the name of Guruji, which was started, but it didn't do well at all. It just got about 0.1% of the market share. One reason for this is that majority of the current internet users actually speak English, and therefore vernacular is not taking off in a big way. Portals are the second biggest source of information. Yahoo leads the way. We have a few local players like Times and Rediff. But what's interesting is that there's a heavy concentration amongst the top 5 portals, and then there's a huge dip from the 6th portal onwards. There's a lot of pressure on portals because the Indian audience is looking more and more at social networking. Mobile portals are a very nascent space. Classifieds are very big in the country. Specifically vertical classifieds. We've had jobs and matrimonial services dominate. They've been in India since the late 1990s, presumably that's why. Real estate and auto are new categories which are just catching up. Horizontal classifieds are also still about catching up, but there's not much traction happening there. Blogging. Blogging has met with average success in India. There are not many successful blogs where Indians are blogging in large numbers. Social networking is actually the #1 thing that they do as far as community is concerned. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter are clearly the #1. A lot of Indian players did make beginnings, but they failed, and therefore they're now looking at other business models. Google Plus got a lot of initial sign-ups, but it's struggling to get usage. E-commerce. This is actually the big one here. When we in e-commerce tried to make a beginning in India in the initial stages, trust was considered to be a big issue. However, a lot of travel sites were launched, and there's a lot of traction that we've seen on online travel sites. Our penetration is about 28% on online travel sites, which is almost at par with global benchmarks. And this has really helped get the Indian audience used to interacting and doing transactions in the online space. The big story lies in Tier 1 and Tier 2 towns. There's huge exposure that they're getting, and access is slowly building up. And it all depends upon getting the right business model. If the player cracks service delivery, payment, and gets the right category of goods, e-commerce is big as far as India and the coming years are concerned. This is just a figure which shows how the number of users transacting online is expected to increase. This talks about the revenue that can come from the internet and how that is expected to increase. Consumer services, banking, and financial services are still number one. Today, 7% of all bank account holders access their bank accounts online. Gaming, unfortunately, is not that big in India. This is probably because of the micro-payment problems. The credit card penetration in India is about 1%, which is abysmally low. And because of that, payment online is a huge issue that e-commerce needs to fight. Music is a very big one, and video is the biggest, where 45% of total user time spent online is actually on videos, probably because video allows a lot of regional languages to come into play.
Veetika,
Yes.
can we...
Yes, I'll just quickly go through the last 5 slides. Redbus.in is an e-commerce case study that I've picked for today. They actually do bus travel bookings online. The industry is 2.5 billion, but was highly unorganized, and as you can see, the numbers were all over. They decided to get into it, and they started focusing on the customer, and the results have been great. They've actually crossed 10 million tickets. They sell about 18,000 tickets online. They are present in 4,200 cities. They've got about 1.4 million visitors. This one is a personal favorite. This is actually a detergent, and they were trying to reach media dark geographies where the computer was probably not very prevalent. They decided to use the phone. They advertised a toll-free number. The consumer would call back, and then there would be an IVRS which would be called to him, which would relate hilarious conversations between a husband and a wife. You have to really check out the results. 5 million missed calls were received from 0.7 million unique visitors in 3 months. Tata Docomo, I've briefly spoken about it. This was the 9th GSM operator. They came to India in June 2009. They actually got onto social media even before the brand was launched. Those are the figures. It's got a cloud score of 64. Incidentally, I think BBC has a cloud score of 44, and AT&T has a cloud score of 64. Rangde, this is an NGO which works towards elevation of poverty. It gives details of borrowers who are from semi-urban areas, and as an investor, you could come and donate as little as $2. Sorry, not donate, lend. About 16,000 borrowers have been impacted by 4,000 social investors. $1.7 million of social investments have been made by this NGO, only via the online space. Hippo, this is a Twitter case study where they actually wanted to track inventory, which is very difficult in a country like India. So they started using their Twitter fans, where they were just supposed to tweet when they didn't find a snack at an outlet, and that's how they refurbished their inventory. My last case study for the day, this was done by Tata Tea, where they wanted to move into waking up the nation, and they actually started a whole social movement in the online space. They used YouTube and Facebook and their portal very aggressively, and they tried to launch campaigns both on air and off air to try and get volunteers to not only participate in NGOs, but also subscribe for voter ID cards. There's a huge problem in India. The youth is not really voting, and that's what they were targeting. And why I picked this was because it's still live. It's been 2 years, and you still have lots of conversations around 10 topical issues. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Veetika. Thank you very much. Obviously, we'll ask you to share your presentation, and because there's a lot of figures to discover and to learn from, Again, it's an impressive dive into your country, and I'm very happy that you had the opportunity to present here. Hervé, you look like a French, but you're not. You are, but you're going to talk to us about Middle East because you're living in Middle East, and can you tell us more about your company? Because before preparing while preparing this conversation, you told me that social media was a unique chance for the people living in the Middle East.
Yeah, just a quick word on, first it's great to talk about Middle East for once, not doing the headline in the newspaper, because it's a region that talk more about war, bombs and kind of things. So I'll try to give you a better understanding of what's really happening in the region. Just a quick word, Diwani, we are specialized in the, we have built the largest female audience in the region. We have 6 million uniques, and I try to speak out of this. Just to start and to give you the first thing, we often talk about Middle East, but in fact Middle East is three different economic zones. I don't even want to get into the politics or region extra, just let's focus on the economics. The first one is what we call the Levant, is the one who you read more about it in the newspaper, which is Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, in Iraq. And of course, I use a Middle East definition of the Middle East. So for the Middle East, Israel is part of Europe. It's a region where you got around $4,000 per capita in terms of GDP, and the internet penetration is 22%. We can even precise that it's more still a dial-up business than the broadband business. The Egypt is more a standalone country. It's very large number, 83 million population, $6,000 revenue per capita, and that's actually the one who's really booming in the region. GCC Gulf countries, which is Saudi Arabia, Emirates, the United Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, forget one or two, I think, Yemen and Oman, are the key market for them, and that's where the money is. That's obviously the oil money. We started that. You have an internet penetration of 50%, mainly broadband. They start to have fiber optics. You can start to have 100 meg at home in terms of bandwidth. 4G is pretty well spread. And there is a high income per capita, which is $20,000 per capita. So basically, we are focusing first on catching the GCC, and then you move to Egypt. Levant has a more interesting approach in terms of production. There are more creative people, and I'll come back to that. There is all those countries have three important things in common you need to know. The first one is it's not an open internet. At different level, but except one country, which is Lebanon, and that explains why they are more creative, etc. All the internet are filtered at different level. You can have more cultural aspect, religious, politics, of course, but basically, when you are inside, you cannot access a lot of things from the outside. And that's a tricky part when you have to build an audience, because you have to understand precisely, because each firewall have their own rules, own government, and extra. You have to understand precisely what kind of content you can produce for which market. Because we have been, just for the small story, we have been blocked one in Saudi Arabia because we wrote about a vibrating mascara, and apparently the firewall didn't plan to have vibrating and mascara in the same sentence. The second thing is this shared language. You have, of course, differences in the way you speak it, but when it comes to write it and read it, it's exactly the same English. So it brings you a market around 380 million people together. So when you start to produce content, when you start to produce things, you have that reach. The other thing is, it's a very young population. 2/3 of the population is below 30. Half of it is below 20. They have a massive challenge when it comes to absorbing that youth on the labor market, so they're very active into investments, helping people. The other thing is, I saw a tweet previously about it's a geek world. Smartphone is amazingly spread. Take the Gulf country, I think the lowest penetration rate is 120%. It's very, very most common to have people with 2 smartphones, an Android and an iPhone, that kind of things, and they are super active online. The other difference, and the main thing that struck me when I arrived there, is especially in Saudi Arabia, which is the cornerstone of when you are into the communication, advertising, content business, there is not much social life in the streets, so they tend to live their social life online. And I was telling you, I've done a conference in Riyadh a few months ago, and a Saudi guy came to me and I said, you need to understand one thing. For you guys, meaning you, European, Western, whatever, online is a social optimization. For us, it's our only social life. The only way I can meet women is online. Having said that, the media consumption, the internet consumption, digital consumption is massive. That's the first one above TV. It's 29%. They spend, people below 25 claim to spend 5 hours a day online between smartphone and fixed internet. Still, it's a region with a bit religion to change, and only 1 or 2% of the online investment are doing online. So we plan a huge catch-up phase, and we are waiting for it. Back to the mobile, it's 35% on the mobile, especially on our properties, come from on the browsing is coming from mobile. There is several reasons for that. First is, especially when you're targeting women, they're still in a stage where you have 1 or 2 laptops per household, so you have to share, and you don't want to share your Facebook account where your husband can watch it, so they are more comfortable on the mobile. And for example, we're seeing an increase of traffic on the mobile sites during weekends because husbands are back home, that kind of stuff. And mobile is pretty massive. And just to end up on the more digital aspect on extra, it's a market doing year-on-year 50% growth on advertising and 100% growth on e-commerce. Just to give you a few numbers, last year the market was $180 million spent online in advertising, 11 billion spent online in e-commerce. So we expect to have another 11 billion spread next year among the different players.
Thank you very much. That's just think about for them what Hervé said about for them. For us, it's social optimization, but for them, it's the only way to get social, which is a very inspiring thought. So I know all of you would like to get some sushi now, but and we are running out of time. But if there's 1 or 2 questions from the audience for those speakers, I'll be happy to take them. If you want to get a microphone, if you've got a question.
S'il y a quelques questions et rapidement, comme ça on continuera après le panel. En anglais, ce serait mieux.
Okay.
Non, je crois qu'on va passer.
Ah yeah.
What are your plans to expand in Europe in general?
On va la répéter pour les gens.
I think that people are interested to know more about Tata.
Hi, yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Irene Toporkov from WorldCrunch. So you've explained a lot about the Indian market, which is very impressive. What are your plans to develop in Europe? Or do you have plans?
I'll surely maybe spend more time with you offline on this. Specifically, Tata's is an Indian-grown MNC, and we have presence in multiple continents and countries. Europe is a huge market for us. We've done 2 acquisitions in London with Chorus Steel and JLR. Europe is a huge market for us, even from the company that I directly come from, which is Tata Capital, for the financial services market. And yes, we are very, we already have offices, a lot of our companies, whether it's Tata Communications or Tata Consultancy or Tata Global Beverages. Tetley is again a brand which is owned by Tata Global Beverages. Tata Steel, Tata Capital, we all have offices in Europe, and Europe is a big territory for us, just like India is for you.
Just for your information, if I may compliment what you were saying, Veetika, in London, in England, Tata is the #1 manufacturer group.
A question for Dewani. Why did you decide not to address Maghreb market, which presents many similarities with Middle East market?
In fact, it was we had to make choices. The first one was the Gulf countries are much more advanced in terms of digital penetration, smartphone, internet. They are spending much more. As well, all the major, we're working with all the luxury advertiser or the FMCGs and extra. The harder to catch and the bigger was the GCC. The other reason is, and we have started to implement some of our properties, for example in Morocco, was to decide, for the moment everything we are doing is in Arabic, and it took us some time to figure out, should we go in French, should we go in Arabic, and in fact the first steps we have done in Morocco is to Arabic only. It was a big bet, and you start to see, since the Arab Spring, a shift of the Maghreb toward the Middle East rather than the Europe. So we're more interested now in the Maghreb, where they look much more of what's going on in Egypt or what's going on in Lebanon or even in UAE than what now they are looking in Europe. I give you a small example because we...
very shortly.
Yeah, very shortly. I give you a quick example on how Morocco is giving up on French and moving to Arabic. This year, the number of search around beauty on Google is bigger in Arabic than you have it on French. So that's what we decided to switch. The other thing, it's not a lot of people have talked about it, but Morocco is part of the Gulf countries now. They sign an agreement, and they're getting closer and closer on the Middle East, and they're giving up on the Europe. So it was a troubled time, and we decided to figure out politically and extra how it could go, and now we're investing more into the Maghreb.
Thank you very much.